everybody. Welcome to the first podcast episode of this series for our campaign, Let's Talk Drugs. This is an anti-drug campaign that's going out throughout the UK for young people to help raise awareness of the consequences of drugs on young people, both physically and mentally. I'm your host, Maya Williams, and I'm joined with Caitlin Atkins.
Hey guys.
And with Paul Hannaford. And he's going to be telling you about his story and his experiences with drug taking.
Hi, everyone. My name's Paul. Can you hear me? Yeah?
Yeah, all good.
Right. Yeah, thanks for asking me. I know we've been trying to get this together for the past 4 weeks. So finally, we're here today. And I'm going to share all my experience of drug use and the places it took me and where I'm at in life today. I guess looking back, the earliest recognition, I'm 51 years of age. I can clearly remember being 10. Clearly.
Yeah.
I was a good footballer. Yes. Good footballer. I loved playing football. I wanted to play for West Ham. I lived in East London.
So many aspirations.
Well, I was innocent. I was a
10-year-old
little boy. I had my whole life in front of me.
Yeah.
Mum and Dad split up when I was 11. Bit traumatised from it. But that's okay. Life still goes on.
How old were you when you started using, Paul?
Well, I first picked up cannabis at 13. So I'd have been just coming towards the end of year 8, beginning of year 9.
Yeah.
There wasn't lots of it, but there was people smoking it.
Yes.
But I found after smoking it, I become quite dependent on it. Within probably 6 months, went from a joint to smoking it 4 or 5 times a day. Then I got lazy, no more football, hated school for some reason. I just resented school. So I'm playing truant and I'm being rude to teachers. I get expelled. I go to another school. They just chuck you out. Different today. They try and keep you in and sort your problems out. But then years ago, it was just another school. Next thing I know, 4 schools later, at the age of 15, I'm in a pupil referral unit, alternative provision. I got there. There's 50 of us. Probably 10 girls, 40 boys, all the boys from different backgrounds, and I hang about with them. Next thing I know, I've got a great big knife in my pocket. I'm a gang member.
Yeah, it's sort of unravelled.
Really. So now I'm running around with 10 boys that all like smoking cannabis and drinking alcohol. So what do? I copy them, or we copy each other. And then we start commit crime because now I'm no longer in school. So now I'm picking up convictions because I'm taking things like LSD and tons of alcohol and cannabis. So that costs money every day. I ain't got a job, so I started to become a bit of a petty thief, shoplifting, things like that. But now I'm going to jail.
So do you think a lot of your addiction came from being influenced by those boys that you got involved with in school?
I wouldn't say peer pressure. People use that word peer pressure. Oh, they made me. No one made me do anything. It was just it seemed attractive at the time because I couldn't see consequence. I just like to be, bit up to no good now and again. But, as time went on, I started to look and think, okay, I'm involved now. I'm a fully fledged gang member. Yeah. This is basically an extension of my family in a different form.
It's unity, isn't it? It's that sense of, being a part of something.
Yeah, they're not only my clear friends. If a fight happens, we're by each other's side. Yes. We get stoned together. We're with each other like 15, 16 hours a day. The only time we depart is late at night and meet up again in the morning. We go home to sleep at our homes, So next thing I know, I'm getting bigger and stronger. I become the gang leader. I'm drinking in pubs. I'm smart. I've got a girlfriend. I'm living at hers and with her mother. And then all of a sudden, one of my gang members goes to prison, comes out of jail. We go out one night and he pulls out this bit of tinfoil like this. This is just a mock-up stuff.
Yeah.
And he starts burning the foil and stuff. And it went, now try that, chasing a dragon heroin. I went, what? I went, heroin? You're joking. I used to see heroin addicts when I was young, outside shops.
That stereotypical sort of image.
Injecting. So and I went, you're mad taking that rubbish. And what do? Curiosity.
Exactly.
Naive. Stupidity, whatever you want to call it. I try it.
Yeah.
It got me. That first night in that flat in East London, it got me and it took me to a dark place. I think completely lost interest in weed, lost interest in alcohol, heroin every day, smoke. I don't eat now, you see, so I start losing weight. 12 months later, I'm now injecting it with a syringe. And the reason I have these is I show kids in schools and, you know, it's my work stuff.
Yes.
I start injecting in my hands swell up, in my neck, my legs, private part. And what happened was, needles started snapping off in me.
Yes, I was going to say, I actually read your life story. I actually feel like I know you already, and I read about you actually still have part of a needle in your arm to this day.
Yeah. Wow. I still have it here. I can feel it under the skin. So anyway, cut a long story short, all the veins are gone, and I've only got 2 veins left in my groin. But there's a problem: is this needle don't reach, so I have to start using this syringe in my groin.
Wow.
And my legs broke down. My legs, you know, I've got some images somewhere. They're on my website. You see it, and they start bleeding every day. And the next thing I know, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. I'm waking up now in drug dens with nappies strapped around my legs with sellotape because I've got no bandages. I'm waking up in drug dens now with strangers, men, women that have probably turned to prostitution to fund their habits, men that have come from all backgrounds, black, white, Asian, different religions, rich and poor. Do you think addiction cares about that? Of course it doesn't.
Exactly. And that's the
don't discriminate.
That's the thing, isn't it, with addiction? It just makes you lose your sense of purpose in life. It makes you lose interest in anything else other than the drugs.
Yeah.
You know, that is what your life is centered on, and eventually, like you said, you know, you're waking up in hospital with nappies and you don't care, you know.
No. But then what happens is, you know, the next 15 years of my life is I'm waking up on sofas in crack dens. I'm either in a hospital bed because I've overdosed or been stabbed, or I'm waking up in police custody or a prison cell. And that was my life for the next 15 years. My mother, who I hadn't seen for years, and then when I did see her, she didn't recognise me. Walked down the street one day, she walked straight past me. So, you know, look, it just got really dark. It got really, really dark. My life became hell. And this wasn't one night waking up. I got to wake up in the morning, you see, and I got to get this nappy off my leg because it's stuck overnight with the blood. As I rip it off, you can see the bone and the muscle and the cartilage in my leg.
Oh, gosh.
You know, and I tell you this, and you've seen the pictures on the website, so people don't believe me. And then clearly, go after this podcast and people see it, you know, when it does go out to whoever, go and look at the website. It's on there, the evidence. So then what happens is, it gets to the point where now, all these years later, I can't walk. I'm disabled. I'm in a mess. I'm skinny, I'm rotten, I don't brush my teeth. I wear the same underpants for weeks. I'm an absolute mess.
So even after, you know, you've been clean for 14 years, is it now?
14 years,
like,
no drugs, no alcohol.
That is absolutely outstanding. That is amazing.
But look, I still
have the problem.
Open wounds in my legs.
Exactly. So there are long-lasting effects from drugs that even when you have been clean for multiple years, you still have to deal with.
Well, look, as I said, you've got to remember, I was once 10 years of age, my whole life in front of me.
Yeah.
I don't recall in primary or secondary school having a workshop on the dangers of addiction, alcoholism, knife crime, gangs. I don't recall one lesson. I remember many English or maths lessons. I remember all of them. They weren't going to keep me safe. So now, at this point now then, I'm in a mess. I've robbed some dealers, I've overdosed, I've been brought back to life in the back of an ambulance. The doctor gave me a couple of days to live because I had blood poisoning and I had pneumonia. I was in trouble. I was literally days away from death. So what do now? Either give myself up to the police or die. And I walked into a police station one day. I broke down. You know, the police were after me, and I was in trouble. And they arrested me, took me to the hospital. I got treatment. I ended up going to prison. The prison couldn't deal with my legs; they were that bad. The prison said, "We can't cut your leg off." And they wanted to amputate it. And they sent me to an outside hospital with 3 prison guards, handcuffed me to the bed, and they put all maggots in my legs. You know, you should probably see it on the website.
Yeah.
And all these maggots, all the rotten flesh out my legs, and I saved my legs. But you know, look, then they took the handcuffs off and they went, "You're free." I said, "I ain't got nowhere to go." You know, no one come to visit me, and it was like, "Where do I go? What do I do?" And you know, it's like, what do I do? Go back to the crack den and share needles and end up with nappies around my legs again and die? But I went to rehab. I went to a treatment centre in Somerset and I got better, you know. And I started to look and do some work on myself and realised that, you know, I was pretty mentally unwell. You know, that's what addiction is. So then I have to make amends to my family. You know, I have to go back and apologise for what I did. You know, my mother, forgive me, I don't see her much today, twice a year. I meet her in a cafe. My brothers, I don't see her much, but they forgive me what I put my mum through. And I have a daughter, and you know, and I left her. I left her mum 2 weeks before she was born. I relapsed. She came up to prison to visit me, and I was going to go out and just about to be born, and I'll go and walk out the prison gate, you know, and never see her again. That's how powerful addiction is. So then when 10 years ago, I thought, what am I going to do in my life? I'm an ex-drug addict. I've got loads of convictions. I can't read and write properly. Who's going to give me a job? I can't stand on my legs all day doing physical work. They swell up and bleed. So I decided to start going around schools, and that's my job today. You know, I go all over the country educating kids about, you know, addiction and knife crime. I have no magic wand, you know, but
That's
if
brilliant.
I can stop one little boy, little girl going my route, because not a lot of people survive. You know, they dropped down dead long before I stopped using.
Yeah.
They didn't keep up with me. I'm not saying I was the best or worst addict. These people are dying. You know, I'm going to crack them. They say, where's Bill, Tom, Harry? Dead. You know, and I'm still going. And I think, how am I still alive? You know, stabbed 7 times, overdosed 3 times, spent £1.5 million on drugs. How am I still alive? But I am today. So now I've got to look and think, okay, what do I do for a living? So I start going around schools, and okay, eventually in the past 10 years, it's took me 10 years to speak to 500,000 kids. People might say, that's fantastic. Okay, maybe it is, but it should be 3 times that. There's been many, many days I've sat at home doing nothing when I could have gone to many schools. But unfortunately, some people, not all, there are some fantastic head teachers out there, brilliant head teachers in general. But there are some that think that there isn't an issue in our communities, but there is. Addiction's on the rise.
It is.
Knife crime's on the rise. Homelessness. You look at, you know, I do some volunteer work at a homeless soup kitchen. I was down there last week. And you walk through this town centre where I do this bit of voluntary work, and you might see 2 or 3 addicts a day. That's it, outside shops, and you go, okay, there's not much addiction around here. I go to the soup kitchen, 200 of them turn up, come out of the woodwork, 22, 23-year-old plus, been on heroin, you know? And you look and you think, my God, you just don't realise, the council, the police, authorities don't realise how much heroin is in our communities, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It's scary.
It's just, you know, it's just unbelievable, and it's more and more and more. I mean, Scotland has the highest death rate for heroin in the whole of Europe.
Really? And you look, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you know, 2,500 deaths a year, and we got to look and think, well, how many of them 2,500 deaths can we prevent with some education?
Definitely.
So, but lucky enough, I go to schools now and I share my experience. And I remember going to a school to do a talk, my daughter's school, and she wasn't meant to be in that day. And as I come out the school gate, she was there. I couldn't believe it. You know? And I walked up to her, introduced myself, and I was terrified. And I wrote her a letter after. And it was the best day of my life. But after 2 weeks of sending a letter, it was an apology. I didn't get a reply, and I thought she didn't want to see me. And I was gutted, really. But I thought, you know, I left her when she was a baby. She's got a new dad now. Why would she want to see me? So eventually, anyway, I got a phone call the following day, and it was her mum, my ex-girlfriend Joanne, who I left, and she went, "Oh, we've been on holiday. Do you want to see your daughter?" And I couldn't believe it, you know. And now I see all the time.
Oh, like, that's brilliant.
So you know, the whole point of obviously getting a clean and sober was, you know, I've benefited society. I pay tax. You know, I do lots of workshops like this and lots of podcasts, and I'm just hoping that people that watch them, whether it be a young person, you know, an old person, someone that works with kids, can go, okay, you know, well done. And yeah, we have got a responsibility for the people we work with. It's about responsibility. It's about leadership. Leadership takes responsibility. And we've got to look and think, okay, well, it's not like, you know, heroin's not that bad. It's terrifying. It's awful. Yeah, different form. You know, some people can smoke a bit of weed and get on with life. Some people can drink alcohol and get on with life. But there's different level of drug use, and some drugs are much more harmful than others. That's why they class them in B, C's, A's, and you can get a class drug, which can be high. Why do the government, you know, put these in classes, these drugs, because they're more harmful, and we know cannabis is probably the most popular drug out there. Tobacco's a drug, coffee's a drug, all forms of drugs, but some are, heroin's a drug, but some are more harmful than others.
Exactly, yeah.
All these people you see sitting outside shops begging that are wrapped in sleeping bags, 95% are heroin dependent.
Mm-hmm.
When I work down at the soup kitchen and meet these addicts who I was exactly the same as, and I get talking to them, hundreds of them, and I say, what drug are you using? They say heroin and crack, heroin and crack, heroin and crack.
They always go hand in hand, don't they?
Yeah, heroin and crack, heroin, crack. And that's what I ended up on, heroin and crack. As I said, I don't touch nothing today. I'm totally teetotal clean. I drink probably too much coffee. That's about my, and eat too much chocolate. But
don't we all?
But you know what?
Yeah, exactly.
But the main thing is, I no longer wake up in crack dens sharing needles.
Yeah.
I no longer have to, go to prison. I no longer harm anyone. I pay taxes, I pay my bills, I live decent. And I strongly believe that, we're missing the trick here with kids. You've got
100%
to stop.
agree.
You've got to stop focusing on academics. Yes, clearly, part of schooling is, academics, but we've got to look at for these kids' personal well-being. Personal well-being for the children in our community is paramount. And that's all round personal well-being. I'm not about drugs, alcohol, I'm on about knife crime, gangs, county lines, mental health. Get these kids through school, into university. And if they haven't, by the time they get to 19, 20, picked up a knife and stabbed someone, they haven't become drug dependent or an alcoholic, then there's a good chance they'll go off and do something decent.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, Meg, go on.
So going back to like your earlier years, like being a child and obviously getting involved with drugs, I know from your story that you went out robbing so that you could go and get money for drugs. Did this robbing places and stuff get you into a lot of trouble back then? Did you get caught quite a lot and it got you into...
Yes, of course. I want to show you something. Wait a minute. Do you know what a DBS is?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's like a criminal conviction check, like a criminal record check for jobs, isn't it?
Yes. Well, I've got mine in paper form, yeah? So I'll just show you, yeah? Right, this is just a few pages, right? This is my DBS, yeah? That's one page. There's another page.
Oh my gosh, wow.
There's another page. And there's some missing.
Wow, that's a lot.
This is just tons and tons of convictions. Most of these, are up until the age of 21. It's like, and you look and you think, yeah, I'm going to prison, there's consequence. So the answer to your question, Maya, is, yeah, there was. But the consequences weren't huge. So that's why I carried on, Yeah. I wasn't like robbing banks and getting 10 years or anything. I was getting 3 months of shoplifting. You serve 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So, but, I look at this now and I was looking through it the other day thinking, wow, now, I keep going back to that magic number of 10. I was once 10 years of age, just like Caitlin was, just like you was, and you look at every heroin addict I've ever met, and I've met thousands. And I know for a fact none of us had a talk around drugs, especially the harmful ones.
No, I completely agree there. I can't recall of all my years in primary school, secondary school, ever having an assembly or a class talking about the dangers of drugs.
Yeah.
And like you said, there's something being missed here. But a question for you, Paul: what did you feel like you were getting from drugs when you were young, when you first started using? What was it that sort of led you to drugs? Was it the feeling of the drugs themselves? Was it the peer pressure? Well, it wasn't peer pressure, but was it the people around you? What was it?
I look, there's different reasons people take drugs. You take drugs to change the way you feel.
Yes.
So why am I wanting to change the way I feel? What's wrong? Why can't I just be a normal kid and do normal stuff? Why have I got to sort of numb myself? Maybe it might have been from the trauma of my mum and dad splitting up. I'm not sure. But maybe I like the way it made me feel.
Yeah.
As I said, 90% of drug use is social. It's only 10% is probably addiction.
Yeah.
So I just fell into the category of both. It's social, and then it turned into addiction.
Yes.
I had no idea that I was becoming an addict, you know. So yeah, but I think the reason I took drugs, it just changed the way I felt. Changing the way I felt become quite normal. I liked it. I didn't like normal. I liked different. I wanted to be,
Yeah.
you know, I wanted to be high. And them highs eventually nearly killed me.
That's
You
the
know.
reality of it, isn't it?
Yeah. So moving forwards, I know this is a thing for the neighbourhood watch.
Yes.
And whatever neighbourhood we live in, you walk down your high street today, tomorrow. I know it's COVID at the minute, and you know, but in general, and you know that homelessness is going through the roof with addiction. We know that there's more drugs, county lines, gangs. This stuff's increasing. I'm doing a podcast tonight with the police, you know, and it's just going up and up and up and up. So we need to somehow stabilise it. And then we've got to start thinking, you know, as you said, Myra, you know, in your school, it's like no disrespect to any teacher. I admire anyone who works in education, yeah. But when you've got someone, a teacher, trying to do a drugs workshop with young people and they've got an experience, you're thinking the impact. It's okay trying to reach out, understand that, I respect that, but you've got to look at the impact it's going to have. You know, it's got to be hard. It's got to be to the point and show them the consequences. I have many consequences, stab wounds all over me, open wounds in my legs. You know, I got needles stuck in my body. The pictures are there, proof on the website. Kids watch it, research it, watch the YouTube videos. You know, I have no magic wand. I go into a school, I speak to 1,000 kids a day sometimes, and then I come away and then bang out. You can make your own mind up about life. So, yeah, look, I just strongly believe that in our communities, as I said to you, Maya, you know, if you can, or we can convince 10 head teachers in one town to get their kids educated, it's a lot of kids.
Yeah, exactly. Because I feel like any assemblies that we used to have specifically in my school, they tended to always be given by a teacher or by a member of staff. And kids just don't take it seriously when it's by a member of staff. Because normally we would have them in assemblies, which is like first thing on a Monday morning. You know, kids aren't going to be taking in information from a teacher about something that they don't have experience in that early in the morning. But I feel like if they would have got someone in who's had experience with it to say, you know, this is what it can cause, I've got wounds and I've got, you know, it's very dangerous, people would have taken it more seriously. Because the one workshop that we did have like that, where some ex drug users and drug dealers came in to talk to us about their experiences, that was the only time where I really saw people in my year actually be touched by something that someone was saying. Because all the other talks that we'd had by teachers about things like smoking as well, like the drug use, no one took it seriously. And, you know, again, it was in assemblies which were about maybe 15 minutes when we first
not long enough.
It wasn't detailed or anything like that. It was just the same thing over and over. It was like, oh, don't take drugs because it can lead to a lot of health problems, but it doesn't tell you about the physical thing. Like, well, you could get stuck in a gang, you could be, you know, homeless and end up in jail for a long time. And that's kids really need to be aware of the dangers that drug use has.
Yeah, and that's why I've always said, you know, like it says it on my Twitter, it says it on all my platforms. I think, you know, you see me in primary schools and some would say, oh, that's too young. Please believe me, it's not too young. You know, there's a good chance you go and speak to a primary school kid in year 6, that might be, there's an 80% chance that might be the only talk they'll ever get. Because an 80% chance they won't get it in secondary school. And you think to yourself, well, let's do it now than not do it at all. Let's do something and do nothing. And all the people I speak to in prisons, when they've killed someone, do you have a knife crime workshop? No. All the addicts I've met, many thousands, you know, we sit and talk in crack dens. We know we never had a talk around these drugs. We speak. There's the evidence. I've got it in black and white. I've been at it for a long time. And you look and you're thinking, okay, this stuff's still going on. This ain't 30 years ago, which I was going through this, and I went through it for a long time. This is about now. This stuff's on the increase. And the reason it's on the increase because we're not focusing on the early stuff. We've got a problem with drug addiction, alcoholism, county lines, gangs, and knife crime. We know we have. I know COVID's took the main news at the minute, but underneath that, this stuff's still boiling away. So we need to look at all these 10-year-olds, 11, 12-year-olds in our communities and look out for their personal well-being. Academically, they're all going to be fine. Some will be brighter than others. That's just life. Yeah. But their personal well-being should be paramount, and we should focus on that year after year after year until they get to that adult age of 18. And then after that, they've got enough information, they can make their own mind up and own choices.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all this is. But look, I'm really grateful today. I live in a decent home. I work hard. I travel over the country. I've spoken to 500,000 children. I said I want to speak to 1 million. The only way I can get to that number if schools invite me in. And I've got a queue of schools waiting for me to go in once COVID's lifted in March. I've got a talk on Monday, and in a school online. If that's the best I can do at the minute, then so be it. It's better than nothing. But yeah, I'm sure that there's been missed opportunities. But I'm gonna do my best. I'll do my best. I can only move forward day after day.
That's all you can do is do your best.
And just share my story. Kids can go and look at the YouTube videos, that I've done with YouTubers. And then you can put it on your platforms to your neighbourhood watch people, to your young people, and just sort of like let them make their own mind up. But as I said, I've got a website. It's paulhannaford.com. There's loads of pictures on there. I'm on social media. All the evidence is on there, and I think that we can make a difference in our communities.
Yeah, definitely.
We can look out for our future generations, and no one deserves to wake up in a drug den or outside a shop wrapped in a sleeping bag. No one does, but unfortunately they are, and the numbers are rising. So we need to try and reduce that a little bit. Never stop it. We never stop addiction.
No,
it's impossible.
It's something that will go on forever. But question for you now: what advice would you give to a young you? So a young person that's out there now that's maybe thinking about going on a life of crime.
In terms of advice, is choose your friends carefully. If you want a bit of a bright future, you hang about with gang members too long, you become a gang member. You hang about with people who carry knives, you'll carry a knife. You hang about with people that are going to take drugs, then you're going to take drugs. It's probably as simple as that. Yeah. But as we said, different drugs take different levels. That's why they're class B, class A, What's the most harmful drugs? What's the ones that are going to cause person the most harm? All drugs can be harmful, but some are just more harmful than others. So definitely. I would just say, a message to me would, what do you want in life? Do you want to go off and get a decent job and have a nice car and go on holidays? Or do you want to go off and end up waking up in crack dens sharing needles and not seeing your family? Yeah. So that's what happened to me.
That's the reality of it.
Yeah.
I know a lot of addicts that are in active addiction. I know a lot of ex-addicts that are many years in recovery, and I've never known somebody in addiction for it to turn out well if they carry on using drugs. There's only two ways really. It's like a fork in the road. You can either carry on that life and end up dead, basically. That's the reality of it, or you can choose to make a different decision and choose recovery, or to choose to not go down that road. And like you said, Paul, choose your friends carefully. That is I think that's a big one. Well,
of course it is. As I said, it's there are all sorts of gangs in life. You can get a gang of bricklayers, a gang of plasterers, a gang of doctors, and then you get a gang of young men running around with weapons selling drugs. And, there's going to be consequences for that little firm, So, yeah, I understand consequence. As I said, stab wounds all over me, holes in my legs. I think in my time in and out of hospital with all my injuries, I think I had something like 400 stitches, put in my body. Whoa. So, and I still dress my legs every day. I'm on medication the rest of my life. That's okay. I've still got my legs. They didn't cut them off in the end,
Yeah.
And, maggots are pretty cool. They scare the kids. They think it's fascinating. the primary school kids, like, they're so brave. They look at it and they go, "Oh, what's that? How did that get there?" Yeah, fascinating. I'll tell them, how did
I
you end up
think
with
some people say, oh, they're kids, they don't need that much detail.
No,
But I think detail is
primary
key.
schools are braver than the secondary
They
school.
are, they are,
Yeah.
they are, they are.
I've
You're
had
right.
6 born boys coming in, all like big rugby players. 10 minutes later, they're passing out. They're fainting. And you've got the year 4, 5, and 6 sitting right through it. They love it. They think it's great.
Definitely.
It's great what happened, but they're fascinated with the story and they think, well, how did you end up? And that is why specifically I put the pictures on my website, because kids will look at that and go, how the hell did you get all them injuries in your legs?
Mm-hmm.
Watch my podcast. Listen to my story.
Yeah.
Because you can go down that road. I don't care where you're from, what religion you believe in, what background you got, how much money your mum and dad have or haven't got.
Mm-hmm.
This is available to all.
Yeah.
Oh, I've witnessed it. I've witnessed people dying around me, in drug dens and stuff, and they come from all different backgrounds. So it ain't all like broken homes and council estates. This is everyone.
It's true.
Yeah. And in my opinion, how you were saying earlier about some people will say like, oh, primary school kids, they're too young to handle it. I think that educating the primary school kids is the way that we should do it, because from what I've seen and from what I've heard, a lot of the like peer pressure and the experimenting with drugs tends to happen when you get to secondary school, because obviously that's the time where you're discovering, more about yourself and you're meeting all these different types of people and you get involved with different people. So I think that educating these primary school students is really, really important, because that's the time where, and because they're younger too, they're going to just take in more information, and I think that's going to be really valuable to them by the time they get to secondary school, where things are a lot different to how they are in primary.
Well, how do you know what a consequence is, right? I can't spell consequence, but I've got many of them. So if you can look at people that get in consequence, from their actions, they get in a situation where there's a consequence, and you look and you ask them, you say, I didn't realise. So my whole thing is about flagging up these consequences before they happen, so kids can see what I went through and go, I recognise that. I remember Paul Hannaford come and tell me about that. So red flags come up. You got me?
Yeah.
Because every parent, your parents, what did your mum and dad say to you when you was 5 or 6? Never get in a car with a stranger. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the one. That's the
one.
one.
Never go off with a stranger. Why? Because it's going to be harmful. You may never get seen again. So I'm in a different form of that. Whereas, if you take drugs, join a gang, carry a knife, this might not happen to you, but it's still available for you. You go down that road long enough. You behave long enough in the way I did for long periods of time, things will get progressively worse.
There's consequences to every action, isn't there?
Well, certain actions, like me, as I said, I got involved with certain drug that took me to a certain place. I never knew I'd be sharing needles in crack dens. I never know my legs would be hanging off by flesh and bone. I didn't understand I'd be sharing. I had no idea. But I did.
No, it's like if somebody had told you that when you were 9, 10 years old, you'd have laughed at them and you wouldn't have really understood it all.
But I wish someone would have come and showed me.
Of course,
when I was 10.
Definitely,
said, these drug dens are around the corner from where you live. Do you want to end up living there? Or do this then? Or don't do this?
Yeah.
You've got a road to take, yeah? What one are you going to take?
I mean, I know coulda, shoulda, woulda, but something like that could have changed the complete path of your life.
No, I talk about responsibility. I know maybe addiction, knife crime and gangs wasn't as bad as it is today then when I was young, but it was still there because I found it. But clearly the people that were educating me maybe didn't realise how bad it was, or it was actually out there. Maybe, I'm not pointing fingers at them. My choice. Everything I'd done was my choice. I don't blame anyone for what happened to me. But I am asking a question: should they have got someone to speak to me about what was going on in the world and enlightened me to protect me from harm, which is called safeguarding?
Yes.
Yeah. So let's go back a little bit and look at the safeguarding policy. Was it gathering dust at the bottom of a filing cabinet? That's what we need to ask. Moving forward, we just when COVID sort of like lifted and we're all back to some normality, addiction, knife crime and gangs will still go on.
Of course.
We don't stop it. There's no vaccine for it.
No.
The only thing for it is some education.
Yes.
So I hope this has helped with your campaign. I really do. Anything else in the near future, any information you want, hopefully if you can get me down, you want me to do a talk in your local schools or area, you can convince a head teacher or youth worker, then please feel free to let them contact me via my website, and I can come down and, you know, and try and help out some with the neighbourhood watch. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine.
That sounds brilliant. I just want to say, Paul, yeah, thank you so much for doing this. I know you brush it off, but you really are an inspiration, especially somebody like me who, compared to you, is, you know, really early on in recovery. I just want to say you are an inspiration, and I've really enjoyed getting to know you on this podcast. So thank you.
That's okay. No, look, absolute pleasure, and hopefully there might be someone watch this and go, okay, yeah, maybe this guy knows what he's talking about. You know, I don't expect to change everyone's mind. I'm not a magician. I'm just an ex-addict that shares my story with lots of kids and to keep them from harm.
Oh, thank you, Paul.
Thank
All right, you're very, very welcome. It's called The Unconscious Kid. And the reason I called it that is because you talk about consciousness. Consciousness is being aware of. Yeah. Consciousness needs to be awake, doesn't it? Not being knocked out unconscious. There's many forms of unconscious. So I thought, well, I must have been asleep. I must have been totally walking around asleep, not realizing what was going on in the world. And that's why I called it Unconscious Kid. And even you see the pictures, didn't you, Myra? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my injuries in my legs, and yeah, I don't know if you see it, and you know, and there's lots of pictures in there. So I hope you really enjoyed it. You know, I'm getting some great feedback on social media and via Amazon, and it's not really a book about me. It's a book about society. It's a book about responsibility. It's a book about harm reduction. You know, it's not one of them autobiographies. Oh, look what I did. Look how good I am now. Far from it. Far from it. Please don't judge me on this book. It's just, you know, I was totally unwell many years ago.
Yeah.
And you know, so yeah, you know, I hope you enjoyed it. It had a happy ending, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. I really enjoyed reading it.
I've ordered it, so I've got it coming.
Okay,
so I really look forward to giving it a read. I really look forward to giving it a read. I'll give you a message after, Paul, and let you know what I thought of it.
No worries. But yeah, as I said, it's on Amazon. It's you know, look, all the feedback I'm getting on Amazon is that everyone should read it, young, old. You know, it's a book for everybody, whether it be a grandparent, whether it be a kid of the age of 8 or 10. You know, read it, learn from it.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks so much for coming.
Okay, girls. Well, listen, I'll give you an email later, Myra. And thanks, everyone. And I hope you have a nice evening or weekend.
And you, Paul.
See you later. Bye.
See you later, mate. Bye.
So that brings us to the end of the first episode of the first episode in the podcast series for our campaign. Again, this is an anti-drug campaign that's going out for young people throughout the UK, to raise awareness of drug issues and to hopefully make young people take the issue of drug taking more seriously than a lot of them do. It's a campaign that's running from the 8th for 2 weeks, starting from the 8th of February. So if anyone out there wants to check it out, that would be great. We have a page on the Neighbourhood Watch Network website where there will be a lot of different resources, such as how to start a conversation with a friend or family member about drug taking, or a help sheet that says where people can go for help or support with well-being and also addiction support. So if you would like to check that out, that would be great. And and you can follow our social medias at Drugs No More on both Twitter and Instagram if you want to keep up with the campaign. And make sure you tune in to the next episodes of the podcast.